Hello my wonderful friends and welcome back to another video. Today I am going to be discussing I became a wheelchair user and this is what shocked me. Obviously there are lots of things that shock us once we become a wheelchair user. Now in this video some of them are my own, some of them you have written in and told me what you were most shocked about. If you don't know, I actually became a wheelchair user when I was 9, and I think when you become a wheelchair user as an adult you see things differently. So this is why I thought it was really great to get some of your perspectives as well as sharing some of my own. So the first thing that I noticed when I first became a wheelchair user is how much people stare at you. I remember the first time I left the hospital and I went out shopping with my mum, and I was shocked at how many people would just stop and stare at me, and I had arms on my wheelchair at the time, and I remember I would try and like lift myself up out of the wheelchair to kind of like hide myself and be like, yeah, no, I don't need this kind of thing. So when I first became disabled, I found the whole staring thing one of the hardest things for me. I just wanted people not to look at me and I just wanted to clam up and just, oh, I hated it. And if you are struggling with it, what I will say is that after 26 years of using a wheelchair, personally, I don't even notice it anymore. So I don't know if you just become a little bit more desensitized to it. I'm not sure. Or maybe people have just stopped staring. I don't know. One thing that of course I remember is that schools aren't always accessible, and back in the 90s accessibility was really hard and really difficult. My schools weren't completely wheelchair accessible. I would sometimes have to travel all the way from like one end of the school to the other end of the school, and it would be like a ninja warrior course that I would have to go through. I would always be late, I would always stand out, and when we used to have to get changed for PE, it would always take me 3 times longer than anybody else to get changed, and I used to find that really hard. Now I would like to think that in 2020 all schools, all places of education for children and young adults are completely accessible. However, looking through some of your comments, unfortunately that's not the case, and there are still schools and colleges that aren't accessible, and that really does upset me. One thing that a lot of you were saying is that you were quite shocked to discover is that how high things are. Just getting things off the top shelf can be really awkward, but not even when you're shopping. It's like when you go to bars, when you go out anywhere, everything is a lot higher.
There you go, madam.
Oh, thank you, handsome man. This one came up quite a lot, how hard it is to get the equipment or things or care that you may need, and also how blimmin' expensive it is. I talk about it a lot on this channel about how expensive wheelchairs and mobility equipment are. I will leave some videos up here and down below, but quite often it's basic care and basic needs that aren't being met that we have to fight for, and not everybody is entitled to certain grants. There is a girl called Anya who has a YouTube channel who speaks quite publicly about the fact that she can't get a disabled person's facilities grant for her home because her and her partner work. But they need £14,000. £14,000 is a lot of money, especially if you're working part-time as a teaching assistant. £14,000 to your average non-disabled household is a lot of money, and people wouldn't on average spend that on a kitchen or a bathroom. So I think it's absolutely disgusting how hard we have to fight and work for to get things. One thing that I wasn't aware of when I was growing up was the Motability scheme, and unfortunately because we didn't have the correct information at the time, we didn't think that it would be available to me. So it wasn't until my early 20s that I was able to get and apply for Motability. You've always got to search and find things out, which is why we're so lucky that now we've got these communities and these resources where we can find things a lot easier than we did back in the 90s. So when you become a wheelchair user, you either become so visible that people will literally jump onto oncoming traffic to get out of your way, or you just become completely invisible and people just don't even give a crap that you're there. Another one I speak a lot about on my channel is stupid things people say to me in my wheelchair and stupid questions people ask and stupid ways people act. Again, I will leave some hilarious videos down below so you can entertain yourselves on the scenarios that we come up with that we face every day as disabled people, but you become a wheelchair user and people ask you very inappropriate questions, sometimes about your medical history, and it's like, dude, I just want to buy some eggs. And sometimes we don't want to talk about what happened. Sometimes we do. Sometimes it's great to educate and all that jazz, but sometimes it is not up for your discussion and it's a bit personal. So yeah, I'd rather not that question. Thank you. Not today, thank you. Not today. So when you first become a wheelchair user and you're out in the hospital, it's all lovely and smooth and really easy to get around. However, you go into the outside world and the reality is, even the smoothest of pavements and walkways can seem flat, but in reality, it's actually quite a bit of a hill. And then there's potholes, tree roots and uneven surfaces, drain covers, grass, sticks and debris, mud and poo. And don't get me started on camber. This road seemingly looks quite flat and easy, but it is not. Because of the camber, I'm having to use one arm the whole way along, and if I don't, I will fall off into the road. So yeah, it's hard work. Oh yes, this one came up quite a few times. How complicated things become. If you want to go somewhere, you want to do something, or you want to buy tickets for a gig or something, it becomes so complicated and time consuming. For example, I wanted Lady Gaga tickets, but I can't phone up the normal line like everybody else and try and get tickets. I have to ring the access line, which I have to try and find. So my sister and I and my mum were there, we've got 3 phones. Then we get the tickets for Lady Gaga, but then you've got to upload all of like your medical evidence, you've got to upload ID, you've got to find out where you've got to park, you've got to find out where you've got to go. Like, these things are really good that they've got into place. I'm just stating the fact that everything becomes a lot more hard work and a lot more complicated. Oh, it's little things like getting in and out of the car that become exhausting. Now, this one happened last week and a lot of you also mentioned this as well. A lot of places will say they're accessible, but in reality, they're not. Just last week, we went out for a pub lunch. I phoned the pub after looking on that website and it said that it was wheelchair accessible. Having looked at the photographs online, they have steps into the main entrance. So I phoned them up.
Are you wheelchair accessible?
Yeah.
So I can go in the front door, you've got a ramp, have you?
Oh no, you'll have to come round the side and someone can open up the patio doors for you.
So when I turn up, someone will be there to open the door for me?
Yeah, if you just come in and let us know that you're there, and then someone will come and open the side gate.
Do you have a disabled toilet?
No, we don't have a disabled toilet. Now when we get there, Sean had to run in to get them to open the side doors onto the patio, and I kid you not, the threshold to get in was probably 5 or 6 inches. Now I had to pop a good wheelie to get up there and then over the door frame, and it was quite hard work in my active wheelchair. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're in a mobility scooter or an electric wheelchair, that's not wheelchair accessible. You're not wheelchair accessible, so yeah. So hard! Once you become a wheelchair user, people assume that you are deaf and or stupid, as demonstrated here.
Oh, here's one that's free DB. Come on, let's go.
Does
does she need a bag? No, Karen, why don't you ask?
That is my video on I became a wheelchair user and this is what shocked me. If you enjoyed this video, I think that you will enjoy questions wheelchair users don't actually mind. Make sure to leave down below what you were shocked to discover once you became a wheelchair user. And also if you have any video ideas or anything else that you want to see more of, you want to see less of, or you've got some really cool ideas, then just let me know down below and we can get filming. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!